Hi, everyone. Before we get started, this is Jill, and I just wanted to remind everybody that you have 2 more days left in the month of September to enter yourself in our Halloween grab bag giveaway contest. Leave us reviews, not only on Facebook, but on Twitter. Tweet us back, review us on iTunes, find us on Stitcher. We're now on iHeartRadio. Everywhere you find us, it's under At the Fire, and you give us some love, and we'll get you some more entries into our grab bag contest. Remember, winners are going to be announced every Friday in October. That's right, you're going to get one episode every week to celebrate the spookiest month of the year. Now, get online and give us some love. Thank you for joining us tonight at the fire. This is Jill, and I have a really terrible head cold.
And this is Ben. I am cold free.
Until I cough on you like 10 times.
Yeah, well, I'm going to keep myself on this end of the fire.
All right.
And stay far away from you.
Perfect. Yeah, I'll try to keep you germ free. And for those of you listening, my apologies. I will try to enunciate as best as I can this week.
Well, we've got a great episode ahead of us. I'm really excited about it.
We have been talking about doing this since we've been talking about doing a podcast. This is probably one of our most favorite subjects.
Yeah, whether you like it or not, within reason, it's fun to be scared. And everybody likes to be scared.
And one easy way to experience a scare is watching one in a movie.
It's the most popular way. Everybody does it. Sometimes you don't even realize you're doing it.
We are kind of making this sound like a drug. So today, we're discussing scary movies.
Oh, yeah.
We are each bringing to the table 3 of our scary movies, ranging from, crybaby tolerable to crazy extreme don't watch unless you're ready to be scarred for life.
Yeah, I would say the range is tame and mainstream all the way up to obscure and the most disturbing stuff that you can find.
Good way to put it. So I'll kick it off with my favorite one.
Yeah, I think let's get right into it.
All right. So I want everybody listening tonight to imagine that you find yourself trapped in a dream. It seems odd. Why would you be walking around your school's boiler room? Then, suddenly the lighting changes, and your dream fades into a dimly lit red nightmare. Tap, tap, tap. You hear metal scraping the sides of the walls, and a large shadow of a man appears down the hallway. He calls your name. You turn your back to run away, but the exit door has disappeared, and the man steps into your view, calling your name again. You start to make out his face, his skin covered in festering wounds from a burn, and the top of his head covered in a hat. He smiles, and he calls your name yet again. He lifts his hand, and you can see that his fingers are covered in sharp blades from a knife. Even closer now, he stops. He lunges toward you, hissing your name and motioning for you to come closer. You try to pick up your feet to run in any other direction, but the floor has turned to putty and now is sticking to the bottom of your shoes. You're stuck. You're trapped in the boiler room with the boogeyman, and you can't wake yourself up. He leans in closer, so your eyes meet his, and he's so close you can smell the burning flesh off his cheeks. Well, hello there. Looks like you're in a sticky situation. And he laughs at your terror, and you're squirming. You're trying to lift your legs, but you keep sinking deeper and deeper into the floor, and you try screaming for help, but the second you try to part your lips, you realize they're glued together. He has complete and total control over everything that you do, your entire existence. And he raises his hand above your head. Say goodnight, and he stretches his hand out so each one of his finger blades are now exposed, and you close your eyes as tight as you can, and you try to pinch yourself, but it's no use. You're helpless. You're trapped in a nightmare with Freddy Krueger. and you may never wake up. I will admit this was my first scary movie as a child. I was watching Freddy Krueger when I was 3 years old.
It made being asleep scary. That's great.
And his sense of humor, too. He would just so obviously play with his victims. He would just totally play off of their biggest and worst fears.
Yeah, well, like any good slasher, I mean, like Chucky, over the sequels, he gets more and more like a clown and a Joker and less terrifying.
He looks so cheesy. I was debating on sharing this one or a Chucky one because Chucky made me scared of all my dolls.
Yeah. There's just something about a guy in your dreams coming to cut your guts out that is really terrifying.
Well, it's the boogeyman. Like, that's the classic.
It's the embodiment of the boogeyman, yeah.
Exactly. It's
I mean, the lore
tale.
is what? He was a janitor?
He was a pedophilic janitor, and the parents trapped him in the boiler room and burned it down.
Yeah, he
and
burned
that's where
alive,
his
yeah.
burns come from. That's why he has his appearance. And so now he haunts the kids' dreams to seek revenge on the parents. And slowly, one by one, they're killed off in their sleep, and they're killed in the real world.
Yeah, I think I'll take the doll possessed by the serial killer over that shit any day.
So that's my tamest scary movie. What about yours?
Well, tonight, I want to tell you a tale. Isolated deep in the Rocky Mountains of Colorado, among the winding mountain roads sits the Overlook Hotel, an expansive mountain of an establishment. The Overlook is a popular destination for many. However, during the winter months, the harsh weather in these desolate parts of the Rockies render the mountain roads far too treacherous to travel. As a result, the Overlook shuts down for the season and employs a winter caretaker in order to maintain the hotel during this time. This year, Jack Torrance, an aspiring writer crafting his next novel, has been hired to watch over the Overlook. Staying along with him are his wife, Wendy, and their son, Danny. Through a mysterious telepathic gift known as the Shining, Danny immediately begins receiving disturbing visions depicting the hotel's horrific past as soon as he steps foot inside. As the days go by, Jack slowly begins slipping into insanity, succumbing to the negative energy possessing the hotel. He soon encounters the spirit of a past caretaker, Charles Grady, a man Jack had heard about during his interview for the caretaker position. Mr. Grady, staying in the hotel during one winter with his wife and daughters, used an axe to hack them into pieces, and shortly after grabbed a shotgun and put an end to his life. Wendy and Danny know they're at risk for a similar, brutal fate, and the fight for their life begins.
That sounds really scary, Mrs. Torrance.
Red Rum! Red Rum!
I can't do that voice to save my life, but that is one of my all-time favorite movies. Oh, I love Stephen King, and I love this movie. And it is so different from the book, but it is so good in its own way.
Yeah, it is a classic horror film, and when I think classic horror films, I think that one.
Yeah, I mean, this movie kind of has it all. It has the people that you depend on most, your family, those closest to you, turning their backs on each other. Well, kind of each other, given the circumstances. It has psychic powers. It has ghosts. It has blood and gore.
Stanley Kubrick.
I know, you get Stanley Kubrick doing a Stephen King adaptation. It's pretty good.
Well, here's what's interesting about that. You think most Stephen King movies, or movies based on his work, it's always Stephen King something. It's very clear that Stephen King's story is being told in this film. Like you see Stephen King's Pet Sematary, Carrie, what else is there? Yeah, all that shit. The Mist or
Christine.
Whatever. Yeah, Cujo. It's very clear. Stephen King's It. So, but not The Shining. It clearly just says The Shining. All movie posters, all DVDs I've ever seen, it's just The Shining. You don't see Stephen King's name appears in the credits, but like you said, yes, the movie is very different from the book. And it's almost like if you draw comparisons between what happens in the book and what happens in the film, it's almost like Kubrick is intentionally neglecting the actual plot of the story, just to throw it in Stephen King's face.
Like, you don't need all of this backstory, because it is a very, very, very long book.
Well, apparently Kubrick was really outspoken about his opinions on King's writing, and he called it, quote, weak. One example of kind of a slap in the face, a big, middle finger to Stephen King, Dick Hallorann, later in the film, he gets that feeling when he's in his bedroom down in Florida, and he drives all the way back up to the Overlook. As soon as he steps foot inside the hotel, what happens?
Jack Torrance kills him with the axe.
Yeah, he takes an axe right to him. In the book, Hallorann lives throughout the entire book.
I guess.
Why kill Dick Hallorann?
Because it's Stephen King's favorite character?
I don't know. Yeah, it's kind of strange. Like
is.
It's like he's intentionally rewriting it just because, who knows? I mean,
Right.
he took like the foundation of the story and made a movie out of it.
Right.
But, there are a lot of, check out the documentary, what's it called? Room 237.
Yes.
There's a lot of conspiracy theories, actually, about this film.
Yeah, so definitely a film worth checking out. It is a longer film, but it's fantastic.
It's Kubrick.
It's a staple.
Yeah,
in
I
horror
say,
movies.
with all these films we mentioned tonight, if you can make it 20 minutes in, sit it out the whole movie.
Right, and it is one that I think younger viewers may be okay with.
No.
No.
There's a
Never mind.
naked old woman in the film.
Oh, I forgot about that. I'm desensitized. Sorry.
The flesh is rotting off of her.
All right. Well, if that doesn't entice you to want to watch that film,
check
I
it
don't
out.
know
It's Praise
what will.
So let's move on to number 2 on the list.
This is the classic story of a couple moving in together, young and in love, taking their relationship to the next level. Mika, a day trader, and Katie, a student, who claims that a ghostly entity has haunted her since youth, are a young couple engaged to be engaged. When Katie suggests that a ghost had followed her into their new 2-story tacked home in suburban San Diego, Mika buys a video camera in hopes of capturing the paranormal activity on film, a project that will ultimately last 3 weeks. Each night, Mika leaves a video camera on a tripod in their bedroom to record whatever might be occurring while he and Katie are asleep. He manages to document several phenomena, such as objects moving on their own, lights and television switching on and off, and sounds ranging from voices and growls to footsteps and loud thuds. But it doesn't stop there. Paranormal Activity is a found footage movie that documents what dangers can come of humans opening the communication lines to the ghostly world when they try to connect with a poltergeist. Has something sinister been stalking Katie since her childhood? What else do you think Mika will capture on camera?
I would argue that was the pioneer found footage horror film.
No way. Blair Witch Project. Pioneer
Okay.
found footage.
All
This
right.
one amped it up. This one took it to the next level. This one gave everybody who spends hours of looking at like craziest ghost film caught on camera YouTube videos. This gave us a movie. This gave us exactly what we wanted. We've been waiting for this.
All right. Yeah, it's the Blair Witch of the digital age.
I love this movie. It's been a tradition of mine every year since this has come out to go see the latest installment in the entire series.
Yeah,
but
they've so conveniently managed to make a movie come out on Halloween, every year? After that came out for...
like, I think it was 5 years.
God damn.
4 years, 5 years. Oh, but I think this movie actually, it only took them 3 days to make.
And not much money. And
No.
they made millions.
I think it was under $1 million.
I think you're right.
And I'm going to argue that, and I hope we don't take anybody up for saying this, but I don't think any of the other ones after the first one are really worth watching.
I don't think you're going to offend a single person with that sentiment.
I don't like the other ones, but the first one is definitely worth seeing at least one time.
It'll be a good time during. It was the only time it was ever, like, I remember seeing it in the theater, and the theater was so rowdy. Like, that was in the trailer for the film, was shots of the theaters. You know, people watching the film. It was just so
and it's in
interactive.
Good, yeah, it's just in good fun.
It's a party movie.
But yeah, that's not really more mainstream, because if you don't like ghosts, you're not going to like this movie. Paranormal Activity, highly recommended. I feel like I sound like that kid from Hey Arnold that used to wheeze behind Helga.
Well, when you do it like that, yeah, breathe through your nose. Is that possible?
I can't
Try
breathe.
It. There you go. Fine. Just don't do it into the microphone.
Everybody wants to hear this. Everybody wants to hear it.
All right. I hope everyone enjoyed that. I've got quite a doozy for my number 2.
Oh, jeez. What are you talking about?
Number 2s. Okay, so this is actually a foreign language film. I think a lot of people limit themselves in the movies they watch. You can find a lot of good foreign language horror films. Yeah, you got to stick through the subtitles, but it's not that bad. I promise. It's worth it for this film especially. There isn't much dialogue anyway, but it is so chilling and terrifying. You have to watch it. 3 teenagers are confined to an isolated country estate that very well could be on another planet. The trio spends their days listening to countless homemade tapes that teach them an entirely new vocabulary. Any word that comes from beyond the perimeter of the estate is instantly assigned a new meaning, whatever meaning their father decides. The sea refers to a large armchair, and zombies are small yellow flowers. Having invented a brother allegedly exiled for his disobedience, the parents use whatever means necessary to terrorize their children into compliance. Managing a nearby factory, only the father is permitted to leave the estate. Only by his request, the sole member of our society permitted to enter their 4 walls is Christina, a security guard employed at the father's factory. Her single purpose is to relieve the natural urges of their son. Eventually befriending the oldest daughter, Christina brings her a gift from the outside world and asks for a favor in return. The illusions begin to slowly unravel, and the oldest daughter begins formulating a plan to escape.
Dogtooth is...
Gynodontus. Gynodontus.
What does that translate into?
Literally, the English word that is equivalent to that Greek word is bicuspid. So and I'm sure I'm saying it wrong. Gynodontus.
All right.
But the English title of the film is Dogtooth.
So this is scary on a couple of different levels. Watching a foreign film in general can make it seem a little more mysterious than it is, only because you're learning.
It has such a different atmosphere.
A very different atmosphere. The internet actually reviews this as a dark comedy.
I saw one site label it as a dark comedy. I guess there are some parts that will make you laugh, but when I saw the film a second time, there were some parts I laughed at before that I wasn't laughing at the second time.
Right, because after seeing the film in its entirety, you can kind of have a better understanding of what is intended to be scary and what is intended to make you... It's almost like a pity laugh for these people.
Yeah, it's like you're laughing because it's so out of the ordinary what they're doing.
But they don't know any different. And
you might even be nervously laughing. You'll get so uncomfortable. And don't get me wrong, like I didn't watch the movie like back to back or anything. It was like years apart when I watched this movie. It will stick with you for a couple of days.
And almost imagine that the children are being held hostage. You can take this type of mentality and put it into other situations that are... I mean, what's more terrifying than a parent holding their own child hostage? And I think that kind of leads into why the movie is called Dogtooth, or the Greek word for bicuspid.
Yeah, it's pretty much based on one of the, I guess, lies that the parents tell the children. They say they won't be ready to leave the home until their bicuspid falls out, their dog tooth.
Which it never will.
Exactly. They don't know that though. They only know what their parents have told them. Like you heard in the, I guess the story, they think the C is a chair.
Right.
And later on in the film, they're told, if you watch the trailer, you'll see an example of this. They're told that the cat is the most dangerous predator known to man. And it must be avoided at all costs.
Your run-of-the-mill terrifying movie, is that what that is?
I guess, yeah. My scale's probably a little on the higher end of obscure and disturbing than where yours tapers off.
I know.
Wait till you hear about my number 3.
I don't want to know what your number 3 is.
Jeepers Creepers.
Oh,
that's not the movie, but Jeepers Creepers.
Jeepers Creepers is
the
good.
exclamation. Yeah,
Jeepers Creepers is a good one.
We'll get into some honorable mentions at the end that are stuff you can watch tonight if you don't want to be scarred for life.
So, I guess I'm not even sure if my number 3 most terrifying and obscure movie is as scary as Dogtooth, but I mean, I think I recall you having a pretty terrified reaction to it when we watched this the first time.
I did not finish it the first time I watched it.
So,
really got under my skin, I guess.
For my my most intense and obscure, horrifying tale takes us back into the 1930s.
Step right up, step right up. Come and see the crazed strong man, the bashful pinhead, or the bearded lady. See the 8 wonders of the world. Watch Carlo the Magnificent tame the most dangerous lions in the land. Step right up, step right up. Ladies and gents, you'll be amazed at the world's tiniest couple.
Hans, one of the carnival's little people, is infatuated with Cleopatra's beauty and normal size, much to the dismay of his fiancée Frida, who is Hans's size. Cleopatra delights in toying with Hans's affections and making Frida jealous, and she continuously borrows large sums of money from Hans. One day, Hercules, the strong man, ends his relationship with Venus, who's one of the other normal members of the carnival. And Hercules takes up with Cleopatra, who shares his cruel attitude towards the freaks. Venus is comforted by another clown and some of her other friends who are the freaks. Venus and the clown worry about Hans, who is increasingly ignoring Frida to moon over Cleopatra. And finally, Hans breaks off his engagement to Frida, after which Frida goes to Cleopatra and begs her to cease leading Hans on. Cleopatra laughs at her, and after Frida inadvertently tells Cleopatra about Hans's fortune, Cleopatra and Hercules plot against him. Cleopatra and Hans marry, and at the wedding feast, Cleopatra is horrified when the drunken freaks tell her that she is now one of them. But what exactly does that mean to the beautiful Cleopatra? Step right up to find out.
So spooky.
So this movie is scary on so many different levels. Only because I know you and I have had the debate before on whether or not you would actually be able to do a remake of this movie and have it be politically correct.
So let's preface that. This movie was made in the 1930s with an actual band, and I don't know a better way to say this, with a circus sideshow.
Of people who had specific stage names that were crafted around some type of disfigurement.
The movie's called Freaks.
There's like a 500-pound woman, the bearded lady, but then you have the beautiful Cleopatra, who is like a sex symbol, a sex icon.
She's a trapeze.
She's a trapeze artist, and she drums up this evil plan to steal the money from one of the little people in the freak show. And you have to remember, back in this time, the freak show and the sideshows were their own little community. All they had were each other. I mean, society wasn't looking out for them. They were willing to pay a nickel to laugh and point.
Yeah, what's some scheme, this scummy bitch, like taking this freak show for advantage?
Exactly, and nobody's trying to figure out where Hans is getting all of his money from. But at the same time, they were trusting her and she's kind of screwing him over. And I think if you watch this movie, you'll see how terrifying the result is when you try to screw the freak show over.
Yeah, she's got some comeuppance that come up, I guess.
But the reason why this is also so scary is because it was filmed in the 1930s. It came out in 1932, so it's in black and white.
It's not a silent film.
It's not a silent film, but it's damn near close.
It's so creepy still.
It's so creepy.
Some of those old black and white horror films from the 30s, 40s, even 50s are unwatchable. This is not one of them. It is unwatchable for an entirely different reason.
It's stomach churning.
Yes, it will. I didn't feel physically ill. I felt like I was beginning to have a panic attack. That's how uneasy I was.
This is a very scary movie. It's more on the adventurous side if you're into that kind of stuff. But definitely, I recommend seeing this at least once in your life.
Fantastic number one pick.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
So good.
All right. I know you're going to top mine. So let's hear what you're bringing to the table.
All right.
With
So
fire.
my So this number one, it's number one for a reason. It is the most terrifying piece of cinema I believe that exists. It is a film from the late 80s or early 90s. You can actually find it in its entire length on YouTube.
Is it your birthing tape?
Ooh, burn. I don't think so. But it is an experimental film, so I guess you could interpret it in such a way.
Okay.
It could be the birth of all of us.
Yuck. Okay, what are you talking about here?
Jesus, this is the common description I found on IMDb and Wikipedia. I'm sorry in advance for reading this out loud for everybody. The story opens with a robed, profusely bleeding quote-unquote god disemboweling itself, with the act ultimately ending in its death. A woman, Mother Earth, emerges from its remains, brings the dead body to arousal, and inseminates herself with its semen. Becoming pregnant, she wanders off into a vast and barren landscape. The pregnancy manifests into a fully grown, convulsing man, whom she leaves to his own devices. The quote-unquote son of Earth meets a group of faceless nomads who seize him with what is either a very long umbilical cord or a rope. The son of Earth vomits organic pieces, and the nomads excitedly accept these as gifts. The nomads finally bring the man to a fire and burn him. Quote-unquote Mother Earth encounters the resurrected man and comforts him. She seizes the man with a similar umbilical cord. The nomads appear and proceed to rape her. Son of Earth is left to mourn over the lifeless body. A group of characters appear and carry Mother Earth to another place, where they dismember her, later returning for Son of Earth. After he too is dismembered, the group buries the remains, planting the parts into the crust of the earth. The burial site becomes lush with flowers. Grainy photographs of God killing himself are shown. In a final scene, quote-unquote Mother Earth and quote-unquote Son of Earth are seen again in a flashback, this time wandering through a forest.
I hate everything that you just said.
Yeah, so it's shot in black and white. The film is called Begotten. Begotten.
It's begotten me not watching that movie.
Yeah, Begotten. If you just Google it, the cover of it is pretty much what the whole movie looks like. It's black and white, grainy. The director actually took the film before he shot on it, and in some instances rubbed it with sandpaper. So when it would come out, it would be that much more grainy and terrifying to look at.
I admittedly have only seen like 5 minutes of this movie before I was like, ew, forget this.
There's pretty much no
Not
audio.
watching it.
The soundtrack to the whole film is like bass, drums, maybe like bass drums and like for like 80 minutes.
I just want to say that I appreciate the sound effects.
That's kind of what it sounds like, right?
Yes.
But interestingly enough, since it was an experimental horror film, it's mostly positively received by critics. But most describe it along the lines of remarkable and extremely upsetting in the same sentence. One person even said it was an extremely important film. I had this one quote that I really liked. from Jonathan Rosenbaum from the Chicago Reader. He said, "If you're squeamish, you should avoid this like the plague. Others may find it hard to shake the artistry and originality of this visionary effort, and if you're looking to be freaked out, you shouldn't pass it up."
Well, I was looking to be freaked out, and then I just got very nauseous.
Yeah, the first time I watched it, I turned it off. I couldn't really take it anymore. It's like you're watching a nightmare. I wrestled not telling anybody about this movie, but when I think the most horrifying film out there, it's this one. If you can beat it, I dare you. Tell me about it.
Get some of this nightmare fuel in your eyeball tubes.
And it's on YouTube, so you can actually watch it right now.
So
I'll put a link on the site.
I don't recommend
enjoy.
that you go in and not enjoy, because
Yeah.
it's not an enjoyable
Bring
film.
a friend along. Bring your girlfriend. Tell her you got a movie for tonight.
Please proceed with caution. We warned you. It's pretty gruesome.
It is black and white, though. But yeah, it's still, there is a disemboweling within the first 5 minutes of the film.
Like I said, I won't be watching that anytime soon, but there were a few movies that I was debating with putting on my list that I just didn't get a chance to. I'd like to recommend a few more that are a little more lighthearted than Begotten. First one's not too far behind on the gore factor. This one is a pretty extreme and obscure movie for those of you who like blood and gore. Excision. The ending has the most insane twist I think I've ever seen in my life. It's horrifying if you're a parent.
It's
I'll
a
just
newer
say
horror
that.
film. It's within the last 5 years.
Yeah, and it's beautiful.
And
it's
hard
beautiful.
It's hard to come across those, and it's so well done. Yeah.
It's gorgeous. It's truly an art piece, and that's for those of you again who like something a little more obscure, a challenge, if you will, for your movie palette.
And it is really gruesome. Yeah.
Very gruesome. It's not one that I'd recommend for a first date. I'll just put it that way. Kind of going down the list, I love psychological thrillers. You don't get much more of a psychological thriller than the movie Funny Games. I think Funny Games came out in the early 2000s. It's the classic, do I be a moral human being and help out my neighbor when they need help? You don't ever really know who your neighbors are. And this is all about the dangers of letting those strangers into your home. Next, I want to get into your basic slasher movie genre. I'm the first one to admit I love all of the Scream movies. I think every single one is great. I love the reoccurring cast members. I love the continuous plot and storyline, and they always seem to bring the killer back to life. It's a really cool movie because everybody's so self-aware, especially in the second installment of the series, when everybody's going to see a movie based on the first events in the first movie.
Scream was the first movie to do that, when Drew Barrymore's on the phone and, "What's your favorite scary movie, Cindy?"
Hello, Cindy.
Yeah.
The last one I want to share is The Ring. Oh man, that was the movie everybody wanted to go see, and it was the one where we were just old enough to like actually go watch it. We could pass. I think it's PG-13.
Yeah.
I was not 13, but I think I passed the age limit, like, to get in the
Yeah.
theater to watch it.
Yeah, it's the movie we're all reminded of every time we pull hair out of our drains.
Good one. Or you can't get the TV to work.
Yeah, but seriously, it is a truly, it is a good horror film, and I think it's interesting that, what was the gimmick in the movie? It was on a tape, and you had to watch it on a videotape. But I mean, with the prevalence of YouTube and the internet, videos everywhere, I mean, on Twitter, Facebook.
There's a new one coming out,
Yeah,
and it's around
exactly. It
the
just
advancement
gets
of
scarier
technology.
with technology, and I think it was sort of fortuitous that happened for them in their film. I mean, if it had to be a VCR tape, that movie would be probably not as scary today.
No, that's another one of my favorites that I look forward to watching again and again over time.
Yeah, so I've got a few also. They're a little more out there. But one is, I have to say, really any David Lynch film, but mostly Eraserhead, I think, is just the most terrorizing. I won't say terrifying. It's a movie that you sort of experience, and there's not really a linear plot. You can sort of form one in your head
I watched this movie a long, long time ago, and I just did not have an appreciation for it. It was weird. I had no interest. I had no idea what was going on. It seems like it moves very, very slow. But then I learned that David Lynch, the director and writer, creator of this film,
Kind
was-
of the auteur of the whole thing.
exactly, he was an art student. So he wanted to be a painter. Is that correct?
That's right. He started off as a painter.
So if you go into this with the mindset that this is supposed to be an art piece, it's just terrifying in the visuals that he gives you. I mean, it was filmed in what, the 90s, you said?
The 70s.
The 70s. Oh, my apologies.
It took him, I think, over 5 years to make.
It's beautiful, but it's in black and white, and it looks so scary because it's so dystopian.
Another one, this one is another foreign horror film, this time from Japan, so you know it's going to be good. You can find it as Audition, the short story. It's about this guy who sort of maniacally auditions women and I guess kidnaps them or something. No?
No, I think he just auditions women as like a dating service. He's a widow, or a widower, and he's like ready to put himself out there again, but he just wants kind of the girls to flock to him. So I think he starts auditioning them for like a fake role, and he selects one based on the audition.
Yeah, it's really a slow burn, very psychological. If you can make it 20 minutes into that one, wait until the end because it builds up to such a climax. And you have to see it.
All I want to say is girl power.
Yeah, and you're gonna when you see something on film and you feel it on your own body, you're gonna feel that, and you're gonna go.
Yeah, if you're a fan of like Saw and Hostel, this is the film for you. Go check out Audition.
It inspired Hostel, one of the movies that inspired.
Oh, I did
Eli
not know
Roth.
that. That's really cool.
Yeah, sort of that build-up torture.
Eli Roth, another great director. Anything by Eli Roth, go check out.
So this is a pretty unique movie, really long title. It's called The Cook, the Thief, His Wife, and Her Lover. I'm pretty sure that's it.
Yeah, you're right.
Yeah. So the film is shot entirely on a soundstage. So it's like they're filming a theater production almost. Sometimes you can't really tell, like if I hadn't told you that, but it is an absolutely visually stunning movie. It's beautiful to watch. But as you can imagine, this mobster thief guy, he's a really awful gentleman. It's some timeless actor that plays him. I don't remember his name. Anyway, it's a great film to watch. It's critically acclaimed. It's really awesome. It is a classic drama, but the scene at the end is so graphic, it almost earned it an NC-17 rating. In fact, it might have. I'm not sure what the rating on that film is. Does it say? Yeah.
It's NC-17.
Yeah, the end of the film is so brutal, it did earn it an NC-17 rating. And that's pretty much probably the only reason. I don't think there's a lot of gratuitous sex and nudity, is there? There might be some sex scenes.
I mean, if there are, it's pretty tasteful, I want to say.
Yeah, it's on a soundstage. It's like a Broadway production.
Honestly, as somebody who loves theater and theatrical productions, it's such a great movie. It is so entertaining.
It's just fun to watch.
It's such an art.
So then, I guess my last one, I don't know, I guess a lot of people didn't like this. It is a slow burn also. A real recent movie, I think last year even, maybe. It's called The Witch. It's about a family back in way back times.
1700s,
They were
1800s.
settlers, and maybe predating the Salem witch trials even, right when that hysteria was starting to be, really prevalent in that area. It does take place in, I think, Massachusetts.
Yeah. The woods.
And it's really historically accurate, and it's very spooky. It's really good.
So those are some of our favorite horror films to help get you through your Halloween preparation. If you have other favorite horror films that maybe you'd like to discuss sometime, hit us up. Go to our website, www.atthefire.com/submit.
Yeah, don't forget, we're going to be bringing you terrifying tales every week in the month of October.
We have some fun things lined up, some untraditional type of episodes in your near future. And again, every week, every Friday, you can expect a little something from your favorite podcast.
That's right. You've got a couple days left to share links with your friends. Rate and review us anywhere you can. iTunes, Stitcher, iHeartRadio.
Retweet us on Twitter. Send us a tweet on Twitter.
Yeah, send us some love.
If you see something that you think we'd be interested in, shoot it over. Send it our way. Comment on our Facebook. Let us know what you want to hear more of, what you want to see less of.
Yeah, prizes will include spooky supplies for your Halloween activities.
And these are some pretty fun little goodie bags, guys.
Yeah, I've almost opened some of it and started going through it.
Don't you dare. But yeah, we are looking forward to the next episode. Look for it on October 6th for your first installment of our Halloween extravaganza.
Thanks again for listening. My name is Ben.
And this was Jill.
Good night, everyone. Sorry I told you about Begotten.
No, you're not.